buenas tardes. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being at this great event, and it's not a joke. I have to say I have to congratulate the organization because it's been really so far a great event with a very interesting content and high level of speakers. And I'm really honest about that. In the last 10 years, I've been traveling worldwide for high-speed congresses and similar events all over the planet. And I have to say that you have brought a very, very, very high level of speakers. So having said that, thank you again to the audience. I won't do the whole round of thank you because there's a lot of people to thank you. So I will limit to my colleagues at the table. The subject for this session is innovation. So lucky us, after this long day and lunch, is going to be a very interesting subject. And my colleagues have accepted to leave some little space for questions. So if you are willing to make any, please don't hesitate after each presentation. So I don't want to take any more time from you. The first conference will be by Remi Habfast, Commercial Director of TGV Nord in SNCF. He's licensed in University of California, Berkeley, and Polytechnique in France. He has a long past in railways, been responsible for the Charles de Gaulle station, and is an expert in yield management and several other areas in railways. I will make short because they all have a long CVs. So and the first subject, he's going to speak about the intermodality, airplane and rail. We've been hearing a lot about competition between planes and rails, and Remi is going to bring one further step about competition in railways and complementarity with other modes. So please, Remi.
Bonjour. Don't panic, this will be in English. Hello, everyone. As most of you know, or all of you know, high-speed rail is actually, depending on the distance you travel, not always the most efficient way. For example, if you want to travel from Europe to New York, you might prefer to fly. But still, high-speed rail has the power to improve by a lot the efficiency of traveling from Europe to New York with good air and rail collaboration. This will be our topic in the next 20 minutes. I will first give you a few facts and figures about this collaboration in France mostly. Then we'll see what kind of contracts SNCF has built with airlines to do this. We'll see what the operational challenges are, and then to see how this is going to evolve in the upcoming years when the competition is going to start in France. Let's have a quick look at high-speed rail in France. This is the map. You see the traffic flows. So what we see here very easily is that it's a big network, about 2,800 kilometers. I think it's about the same size as the network in Spain. But the traffic is very dense on the north-south route. It's very concentrated there. We also have a quite big rolling stock, about 450 trains. And if you see that there's only 800 trains scheduled every day, you notice that we don't use the trains that much. One train is used about 5 to 6 hours a day. This is not much. But still, we have 100 million passengers a year. And they're also very concentrated in very few train stations. In total, we have 187 train stations that have some kind of high-speed service. And actually, 70% of the traffic is in the top 25 of those stations. And on the top 5, there are 4 stations in Paris. So the traffic is very concentrated. But the interesting thing for us today here is that if we look where the 5 major airports are in France, 3 of those are on this north to south route. You have first Roissy-Charles de Gaulle airport outside Paris, which is the first or the second one in Europe, depending on how you count. We have Lyon-Saint-Exupéry here in the middle, outside the Lyon. And then in the south, we have Marseille. It's actually not on the high-speed rail network. It's on a regional line, but it's still connected to the trains. Then we have two other major airports, Orly, which is not directly connected to the high-speed rail, but there's a station 15 kilometers away, and we also use it for air and rail collaboration. And then there's the Nice airport, no luck, they have no connection to the rail at all. But Roissy and Lyon, they have train stations inside the airport. If we look now at the traffic on these three major airports that are connected to the rail system, actually the one with the biggest traffic by far is Roissy Charles de Gaulle, and it's actually also the only one where there is a real air and rail intermodality flow, where people actually connect between airplanes and trains. Here what you can see, the red and the orange zones are people who connect between trains and rail, and the gray zones are people who just use the station as a regular station because they live in the neighborhood of the station. So Roissy has a big share of people who connect. For the two other airports, actually, they are regional airports with regional flights, so the point of connecting between train and plane is less interesting than for very long-haul flights in Roissy Charles de Gaulle. You can see this orange zone here. Here, orange zone. Those are the passengers who connect with a combined ticket between air and rail. This is not so big. It's a small part who buy the ticket together, because the other ones, they buy separated tickets. It's not so big, the orange zone, but it's growing. It's growing, and it has big growth potential because currently people don't really know about these combined tickets. If we look at those people who connect between air and rail, most of them travel with standalone tickets, not combined, and only 13% travel with a combined ticket. But those people who travel with a combined ticket, most of them actually didn't choose. So people who do know the advantages of a combined ticket, of buying the tickets together, are actually very few. And this kind of product is quite new, and we have to make them more common in France, and people have to know more about it to develop it. The advantages are mostly that it's cheaper, and also it's more reliable, because if the train is delayed or the aircraft is delayed, you will not want to miss your connection. Now let's have a look at these combined ticket contracts. We have two different contracts in France. We have chartering with Air France. Chartering actually is meant to replace airline routes between Paris and Strasbourg and Paris and Brussels. Now on these routes, because of high-speed rail, rail is so competitive, it's so fast that it's not interesting anymore for Air France to have airline routes between these cities. So Air France wanted to stop the service. But they didn't want to lose the people who took those flights to go on long-haul international flights. They wanted to keep those people. And so they asked SNCF, when they stopped their own route on those, between those cities, they asked if they could buy seats in our trains. And that's what we do. We sell them on every train, about 50 to 100 seats in first class to Air France, and they put their customers inside to take a long-haul flight in Roissy Charles de Gaulle. You can see here on the picture below what it looks like when you want to buy an Air France ticket from Strasbourg to New York, for example. You have here a flight that is actually operated by SNCF, and the aircraft is a train. So we sell those seats to Air France, and then Air France takes care of everything. They welcome the customer, they do the check-in for the customer. Inside the train station, there's an Air France office, which you can see here. They have a luggage carrier assistance. They care for everything like if it's an Air France customer inside the train. We just care for the operation of the train, but Air France cares for everything else. And this is a bit different from the other kind of contract that we have, which is called TGV Air. TGV Air is quite different from chartering, because TGV Air is used by many airlines. We have 11 here partners. Is used by airlines to get new customers from all over France. We have international airlines like Air Austral. They don't want to have a flight in every city, from every city in France, so they use those trains here to get all the people to Roissy, and then people take a long-haul flight. And the main difference here is that we don't sell block seats. We sell individual seats for each customer that airlines ask us to. So they send a list of customers, and we make reservations for every of them. We welcome the customer, we do the check-in, we take care of the customer like if it's an SNCF normal customer. So this is a bit different between the two contracts. Now, if we compare the contracts as a whole, we see that the main difference is the way the capacity is sold. At Air France, we sell block seats, and then Air France takes the risk to sell or not to sell those seats, but they pay us the same thing, whether they sell it or not. It's a fixed price per seat. With TGV Air, we take the risk, because the airlines, they only buy individual seats, and they only buy seats they will need, so we take the risk on capacity. For the rest, it's pretty much the same. The cost to the airline is fixed. The airline does the yield management. We have no idea how the pricing is done. Usually, combined tickets are cheaper, but we have no idea how they do it. There is in both cases a ticket office in the station. In one case, it's SNCF office. In the other case, it's Air France office. And there's also in both cases this rail and air connection guarantee, which means if you miss your flight because of a train, you get a new flight ticket and vice versa, which is very valuable to customers. This works pretty well. There are still a few challenges with that. First is that the companies, they want to have the proof that the customer took the train in the departure station. They want the proof of that. Because if customer wouldn't have to take the train, they just could buy combined tickets, which are cheaper, and use only the flight, which is not the point, of course. So they want the proof the customer took the train. And this means we have to do the check-in in the departure station, and we need staff to do it even in very small stations, even at very early and late times. So this is very costly for us. Another challenge is that we don't have the contact details of the passengers, so if there's any disruption of traffic, any delays and so on, we cannot contact the customers. And then we have a few other issues, like, for example, companies that want to operate in Orly, not Roissy, but Orly, which is the other airport. And the train station is 15 kilometers away from the airport. So they have to put a shuttle service, which you can see here, which is not very convenient for the users. And then we have a few other issues with rolling stock, last-minute change, and also rules for passengers with disabilities that are not the same between airlines and SNCF. So these are small issues, but compared to what is coming next, they are very small issues, because in the coming years, there will be a huge disruption in France. But to understand this disruption and the consequences on air-rail collaboration, I will need to say a few words about competition, about upcoming competition in France and the consequences. Today, the starting point is a company, SNCF, that is not very profitable. If you count everything, infrastructure, tolls, everything, it's not very profitable. And profitability is concentrated on just a few routes. This is mostly because tolls are high, and it's also because we have inherited, as a state company, some constraint, like inflexible job contracts, higher taxes, and we also have the duty to go to some very tiny cities with the TGV, where there are almost no customer. A few examples of that, we have sometimes to go, to leave the high-speed rail track to go to a very small city, where there's almost no one getting in or off the train, but we lose a lot of time for that. This is also why we have such a big rolling stock, because we lose sometimes a lot of time going to very small cities. We have irrational route extensions that are being asked by politicians. Very famous example here is a train. A politician, very famous politician in France, wanted the TGV train to go to a place where the line was not electrified. So we had to use a petrol engine to carry the TGV to the final destination, which is really stupid. And then also there are many places where there's overcapacity or too many frequencies regarding the market needs, and this is very costly for SNCF. But this is probably going to change a lot in the coming years with competition. Next year in France, there will be a law in 2018 that will say how competition is going to be organized. And competition has to come into effect by the end of 2020. There are two ways to organize competition in France. The first one is franchises. You just group together routes by profitability. You put together routes that are profitable and not profitable to make bundles that operators can operate without losing too much money. The advantages of this is that you can still run the unprofitable routes. They can still exist. And you also prevent private companies from only running the most profitable routes, like Paris-Lyon, for example. So this doesn't change the system too much. It still affects air-rail collaboration, as we will see after. And then there's open access, second option. This is more like a free-for-all option. where any company with a certificate can operate on any line. And obviously, they will operate on the profitable ones, which will have decreased fares, will have better service, but also lower profitability. And we will only keep at SNCF the unprofitable lines, which would be a big problem. So either we will have to reduce the service on those lines, or we'll have to finance them with a public service contract, or we will just keep them, but then actually the state will pay for them because SNCF belongs to the state. So at the end, it's taxpayer money that will pay for those lines here. We have been preparing for this scenario for many years with something that you maybe know is Ouigo. Ouigo is the low-cost carrier in France. We tried to find all the ways we could to reduce the cost to offer very low fares. The lowest fare is 10 euros to cross France from north to south, and the average price is about 25 euros. And the biggest ways to save cost was to maximize the rolling stock use, to put more seats inside each carriage. And also, and this is where there's an impact for us here today, we are using the high-speed rail station outside the cities because they are cheaper. They have cheaper tolls. And one of them is Roissy-Charles de Gaulle. So in Roissy-Charles de Gaulle, we are putting a lot of Ouigo because we need these low-cost trains, and we are putting less TGV. But the issue here is that for now, only TGV can have the partnership with airlines. Ouigo has not. Ouigo has a different inventory. Ouigo has different selling system. Ouigo has no contract with airlines. Ouigo doesn't want this, and the airlines also don't want to have low-cost trains for their customers. So for now, every year, the amount of trains that can carry airline passengers is getting lower and lower and lower. And with competition, it will become even worse if there are some other operators in Roissy-Charles de Gaulle. You could have 3 or 4 different companies in Roissy-Charles de Gaulle because it's a quite profitable station. And in this case, airlines will not want to have a contract with every single company. It's already quite complicated to have a contract with SNCF. They won't want to have a contract with 3 or 4 different companies. So this is the first big challenge in the future with competition, is that it will decrease the available trains for airlines and will make dealing with different companies very complex. Second problem is that if there are different rail companies in France, each company will have less revenue, and we will have to close shops in station, selling points, and we will not be able to do the check-in that we have to do for airlines in all of the stations like we do today. So we will also have a network for airlines that will be much smaller than today. And the last issue is that if SNCF has to keep the small stops outside the high-speed lines, it will make the SNCF service slower than other services. And so the passenger who use SNCF with airlines together will have inefficient service compared to other services where you buy the separate tickets. So this is also an issue for us. So what can we do now to prepare for that? As a conclusion, I would say first, of course, the rail competition has to be well organized. This is not our issue, but still very important. We also need to make the sales processes and customer experience more digital. We are trying to make the check-in possible without having any staff in the station, but this is very difficult because there's a complex process behind the check-in with connections to the airline systems. And then I think the most important is that the air and rail industry work together to define standards that will allow every rail company to work together with any airline without having every time to define a contract, which is way too complex. So this is something that we are starting to do with Air France, but this is still a long way from being done. Thank you very much for your attention. I think we have some time for questions maybe at the end.
We have time for 1 or 2 questions. No? Okay, so I will just highlight, Remi, it's fascinating that you're also very innovative in operation, not only in technology or its operation, modes of operating, competing with other modes, but also complementing airplane, which is traditionally known as an enemy of high speed. and innovate in the way you treat passengers with low-cost operator in parallel with a traditional one. So I'm very impressed. Thank you.
Thank you.